الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. The author, he mentioned رحمه الله تعالى الشرط الثاني, the second condition. The second condition, meaning from the conditions of as-salah, al-aqlu wa ضده al-junun. The author, he says, it is to have sanity, and the opposite of that is to be insane. Al-aqlu wa ضده al-junun. Al-aqlu, it means to have sanity, the sane and sound mind, to sane and sound mind. And the opposite of that is insanity. وَالْمَجْنُونُ مَرْفُوعٌ عَنْهُ الْقَلَمُ حَتَّى يُفِيقَ. And the one who is in a state of insanity, the one who is insane, then the pen is lifted from him until he regains sanity. Then the pen is lifted from him until he regains sanity. The pen is lifted, meaning qalam al-taklif, the pen of accountability, meaning he's not held accountable for his statements or his actions. Meaning he's not held accountable for his statements and nor for his actions. The author, he says, what dalilu al-hadith, and the evidence is the narration. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ, that the pen has been lifted from three, meaning the pen of accountability. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ قَلَمَ التَّكْلِيفِ عَنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ, the pen of accountability has been lifted from three, meaning from three types of people. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, النَّائِمُ حَتَّى يَسْتَيْقِظَ, the one who is sleeping until he awakes. وَالْمَجْنُونُ حَتَّى يُفِيقَ, and the one who is in a state of insanity until he regains his sanity. And this is the shahid for the author with regards to this particular issue. وَالصَّغِيرُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغ, and the one who is a child, and the child until he reaches the age of puberty. Until he reaches the age of puberty. So therefore, these individuals here, the pen is lifted from them, meaning the pen of accountability. They are not held accountable for their actions and for their statements. And this is because they do not have the ability to intend, because they do not have a sound mind. They don't have a sound mind, so they're not able to make the proper intention for the actions that they want to perform. And the one who is majnoon, then no doubt he's dhahibul aql, that his mind is completely gone. So therefore it's not possible that he can have an intention, that he could intend to do a particular action of worship and to do it sincerely for the sake of Allah, so on and so forth. So therefore he's not held accountable for his statements nor for his deeds, and based upon that, likewise, his actions will not be accepted from him if he were to perform them. And if he were to perform a particular action of worship, even if he performed it outwardly, it will not be accepted from him because he does not have a sound mind. He does not have the ability to intend. He does not have the ability to intend. So this narration has been narrated by a number of companions, from them Ali ibn Abi Talib, and likewise Ibn Abbas, and also from Aisha radiyallahu anhum. So this narration is well known, collected by Abu Dawood and Tirmidhi and Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, and likewise Al-Imam Ahmed rahimahumullah. And it is an authentic narration and a very important narration with regards to those whom the obligations are upon and whom the obligations will be considered correct from. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ, the pen has been lifted from three. النَّائِمْ حَتَّى يَسْتَيْقِظ, from the one who is sleeping until he awakes. وَالْمَجْنُونُ حَتَّى يُفِيقَ, and some wordings, al-majnoon حَتَّى يَعْقِلْ, حَتَّى يُفِيقَ أو يَعْقِلْ, until he regains his sanity. The one who is insane until he regains his sanity. وَالصَّغِيرُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغ, and the child until he reaches the age of puberty. Until he reaches the age of puberty. So this is clear for the condition of having a sound mind, the condition of the aql with regards to the correctness of the salah. But likewise, this is a condition for the obligation of salah. So the salah is not obligatory upon this person, and nor would it be accepted. So the al-aql shartun al-wujubi wa al-sihha, that to have a sound mind is a condition for the obligation of the prayer, and likewise a condition for the correctness of the prayer. So therefore the prayer is not obligatory upon the one who is insane, and likewise it would not be accepted from him had he performed it. And likewise it would not be accepted from him had he performed it. With regards to the issue of the aql, the people of knowledge, they mention a number of details. We take some of those details briefly. We take 3 masail, ثلاثة مسائل تتعلق بالعقل, 3 issues that are related to the affair of the sanity, of a person being in a state of sanity and having a sound mind. The first issue is al-mughma alayhi. Al-mughma alayhi. Al-mughma alayhi is the person who has fallen unconscious. A person who has fallen unconscious. No doubt, whenever he's in a state of unconsciousness, then he's excused from the prayers that he would miss. He's excused from the prayers that he would miss. But would he have to make them up whenever he regains consciousness? Would he have to make those prayers up whenever he regains consciousness? This is the issue that we discuss. So with regards to the majnoon, with regards to the one who is insane, he lost his mind literally. He lost his mind literally. And then Allah blessed him and favored him and brought him back to sanity. Then he will not have to make up any of the prayers that he missed while he was in a state of insanity. And rather he will start praying from that time on. Rather, he will start praying from that time on. And likewise, the majnoon, the people of knowledge, they mention is 2 types. And mutlaq, the one who is completely insane, and the one who comes and goes. The one who comes and goes. So the one who is completely insane, this is what we're discussing. As for the one who comes and goes, then if he's in the state of insanity, then he's not held accountable. But if he comes back, sometime briefly throughout the day, for example, then he'll be held accountable at that time. So long as his aql is there, then the taklif will be there. Then the taklif will be there, and the accountability and the obligations will be upon him. But if he lost his mind and he became insane again, waliyadhu billah, then at this time, then the pen is lifted from him. The point is now that, for example, a person who was majnoon, he was in a state of insanity, and then he regains sanity. At that time, he will start praying. At that time, from that period on, he will begin to pray. He will not have to make up the prayers that he missed. But as for al-mughma alayhi, then the issue is different. Likewise, in this topic we discussed the issue of an-na'im. An-na'im likewise is one who, while he's sleeping, he's not conscious, and his conscience is not there. The one who is sleeping, his conscience is not there. But there's no difference of opinion about the one who is sleeping, that whenever he wakes, he has to make up his prayer. A person who, for example, he slept and he missed the prayer, then whenever he wakes up, he has to make up the prayer. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man nasiya salatin aw nama anha فَلْيُصَلِّهَا إِذَا ذَكَرَهَا لَا كَفَارَةَ لَهَا إِلَى ذَلِكَ." That whoever forgot their prayer or he slept on the prayer, then he should pray the prayer as soon as he remembers, and there's no expiation for that except for this. So the one who forgot to pray, or the one who slept through the entire time of the prayer and he woke up after the time is gone, فَلْيُصَلِّهَا إِذَا ذَكَرَهَا, then let him pray it as soon as he remembers. So therefore he'll pray whenever he wakes up. So there's no difference about this. The one who slept on the prayer, then whenever he wakes up, it's incumbent for him to pray. Incumbent for him to pray that prayer. And to make that up. We'll discuss this issue in a bit of more brief detail, inshallah. So now we have the issue of al-mughma alayhi, the one who is unconscious. So would he have to make up the prayer? The people of knowledge, they differ with regards to this. So some of them mentioned that he will have to make up the prayer, and others, they mentioned he will not have to make up the prayer. And the reason for the difference of opinion is how they looked at the mughma alayhi, how they looked at the person who is in a state of unconsciousness. Is he similar to the one who is majnoon, or is he similar to the one who is na'im? Is he similar to the one who is in a state of insanity, or is he similar to the one who is sleeping? So those who considered the one who is unconscious to be similar to the one who is in a state of insanity, they say he doesn't have to make up the salah. He doesn't have to make up the salah that he missed while he was in a state of unconsciousness. And as for those who considered him to be like the one who was sleeping, then they mentioned that he will have to make them up. So basically this is the summarization of the issue. Others have mentioned that rather if he missed 5 prayers, or less, then he'll be considered like the one sleeping. He'll have to make them up. If he missed more than 5 prayers, then he will be considered like the one who is majnoon, and he will not have to make them up. Others, they mentioned rather it's 3 days. If he was unconscious for 3 days, or less, then he'll have to make those up, because the one who's unconscious for 3 days or less is closer to being like one who is sleeping in their position. And they said after 3 days, then he's closer to being like the one who is in a state of insanity. And others, they mentioned rather he doesn't have to make them up at all. He doesn't have to make them up at all, regardless of whether he was unconscious for a long period or a short period. And Allah knows best. This one is closer, because he is closer to being like the one who is insane, not like the one who is sleeping. Because the person who is sleeping, he can easily be awoke. Somebody can come to him and wake him up, and he tap him until he wakes up. As for the person who has gone unconscious, then you cannot wake him up. You cannot wake him up. You cannot go and tap him until he wakes up, or move him or call him to wake up. Rather, he remains unconscious until Allah decrees for him to come out of that state. So therefore, he's closer to being like the person in the state of insanity. So therefore, he will not make up the prayer, and Allah knows best. And Allah knows best. So this is with regards to the person who went unconscious, meaning he lost his consciousness. He lost his consciousness unwillingly. And it's something that happened to him. Maybe he fell sick, or maybe he got old, or maybe he was struck in the head, or the likes like this, until he lost his consciousness. So therefore, that which he missed from the prayers while he was unconscious, he's not held accountable for that, and he will not have to make it up, and Allah knows best. This is the position of Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala. Shaykh Ibn Baz rahimahullah, he mentioned that it's better for him if it's 3 days or less, then he will make those up, and anything over that, then he will not make it up. So this is something that the people of knowledge, they differed with regards to. Also on this topic, the issue of the aql, we talk about as-sakran. As-sakran is the one who is drunk, the one who is intoxicated. Yani man adhab aqlahu binafsihi, a person who has caused his own sanity to go away, and who has brought insanity upon his own self from his own action. The person who is drunk and intoxicated. The person who is drunk and intoxicated. So no doubt the one who is in a state of drunkenness and he intoxicated, his prayer will not be accepted if he prayed it while he's in that state. His prayer will not be accepted if he prayed it while he's in that state. And if he's in the state of intoxication and he prayed, the prayer will not be accepted. And whenever he regains his sanity, and whenever he sobers up, he would have to repeat that prayer. He would have to repeat that prayer. A person who drank alcohol until he became drunk, until he became intoxicated, and then he prayed in that state, his prayer is not accepted. Rather, it's not allowed for him to pray. It's haram for him to pray at that time. It's haram for him to drink alcohol, and if he drinks alcohol and becomes intoxicated, it's haram for him to pray in that state. It's haram for him to pray in that state, and not allowed. And if he prayed in that state, it will not be accepted. And whenever he gains sanity and he sobers up, he will be ordered to repeat that prayer. He'll be ordered to repeat that prayer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned with regards to this, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la taqrabu salata wa antum sukara hatta ta'lamu ma taqulun. O you who believe, do not come near the prayer while you are in a state of intoxication until you know what you're saying. This verse was revealed in the process of the prohibition of alcohol. So in the beginning of the prophethood of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the alcohol was allowed and permissible, and slowly it was forbidden. Slowly it was forbidden. Alcohol was something that the people there were upon in Jahiliyyah, and it was declared impermissible in stages, and in the most beautiful and beneficial manner. From those stages is that they were prohibited from being intoxicated in the time of prayer. La taqrabu salat. Do not come near the prayer wa antum sukara, while you are in a state of intoxication. Hatta ta'lamu ma taqulun, until you know what you're saying. So therefore, it's not allowed to approach the prayer and to come near to the salah. You need to enter into the salah while a person is in a state of intoxication, while he's drunk. وَلِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ حَتَّى تَعْلَمُوا مَا تَقُولُونَ, until you know what you're saying. So the people of knowledge, they mentioned that this is the principle here on how to identify the one who is drunk, or the one who has reached the level of intoxication that the prayer will not be accepted from. And that is if he does not know what he's saying. A person, maybe he'll drink alcohol and he will not become intoxicated, yani from the first sip. or maybe from the second sip, or even especially from those who are highly addicted, maybe they can drink a number of drinks before they're actually completely intoxicated, So it's not until a person has become completely intoxicated that their prayer will not be accepted. So if a person were to drink alcohol, waliyadu billah, and he did not become drunk, then his prayer will be accepted. He's sinning for drinking, but the prayer is still obligatory upon him, and it will be accepted from him, so long as he has his sanity. So long as he's not drunk, he's not intoxicated. حَتَّى تَعْلَمُوا مَا تَقُولُونَ. So the ضابط here with regards to this is al-khalt fi al-kalam. If a person, he starts mixing up his words, he starts stumbling in his speech, he starts saying things and mixing the words up and the likes like this, at this time, now he's drunk. This is the means to identify the person who has reached in the state of intoxication. So at this time, the prayer is not accepted from him. Rather, it's not allowed for him to pray. So the issue of alcohol is something major. Again, this verse here is revealed in the process of declaring it to be impermissible. But drinking alcohol is from the major sins. And alcohol, al-khamr al-khaba'ith is the mother of evils. Alcohol is the mother of evils. Any intoxicants is something that is very dangerous and something that would completely corrupt and destroy a person's life. It will destroy a person's life. It will destroy a person's family. Waliyadu billah. It tears apart societies. It's something that is foul and something that is wicked. Whenever alcohol was completely forbidden, it came in the verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah. The previous verse was in Surah Al-Nisa. But in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَنْصَابُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ رِجْسٌ مِّنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ يُوقِعَ بَيْنَكُمْ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون. And he clarifying that the alcohol has been declared completely haram and impermissible. It's not allowed, and likewise it's from the call of shaitan. It's from the actions and the deeds of shaitan, and this is from the call of shaitan in order to cause enmity and hatred amongst you, and also to prohibit you from the remembrance of Allah and from the salah. And this is from the intention and the aim of shaitan with regards to the khamr, with regards to the alcohol, in order to cause enmity and hatred amongst the ranks of the people, in the ranks of the believers, and likewise to deter a Muslim from remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, and likewise from establishing the prayer, So this is the issue with regards to khamr. There's no doubt about that al-khamr is haram. Khamr haram min kabair al-dhunub. Drinking alcohol is haram, from the major sins. Whether drinking alcohol, serving alcohol, delivering alcohol, all of that, making alcohol, all of that is haram. Transporting alcohol, all of that is haram. The Prophet ﷺ, he cursed all of these people. The one who drinks it, the one who serves it, the one who transports it, the one who makes it, the one who presses it, all of them, they have been cursed on the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is really something major. But there's important points to know about the issue of al-khamr. And this is something that is very important to realize in these days, likewise, especially whenever there are many people who are doing different types of intoxicants. And even some of them may claim that it's permissible or allowed, waliyadu billah. But in reality, they have the exact same ruling. And even possibly they could be considered khamr, by the text of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's been collected by Al-Bukhari and Muslim from the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha that the Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّ شَرَابٍ أَسْكَرَ فَهُوَ حَرَامٌ كُلُّ شَرَابٍ أَسْكَرَ فَهُوَ حَرَامٌ. Every drink that intoxicates, then it's impermissible. Every drink that intoxicates, then it's impermissible. So somebody may not say, it's not, this is wine, or this is beer, or this is gin, or this is rum, or this is a new type of drink, or this is a wine cooler, or this is this, or this is that. Any drink. It's made from this, it's made from that, it's made from fruits, it's made from apples, it's made... The Prophet ﷺ, كُلُّ شَرَابٍ أَسْكَرَ فَهُوَ حَرَامٌ. Every drink that intoxicates, then it is haram and impermissible. Then it's haram and impermissible. Likewise, it has come as well in Sahih Muslim from the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, "Kullu muskirin khamrun, wa kullu muskirin haram." Everything that intoxicates is khamr. Is khamr. And every intoxicant is haram. And every intoxicant is haram. We have to take note here and see the beauty of Islam and the greatness of this legislation and how it is legislated and prescribed from the most wise and the one who is all aware and all knowing, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the religion of Islam is complete and perfect. It's complete and perfect for all time and all places. For all time and all places. It's complete and perfect, and it means to rectify the human being and the society and all of the cultures and customs until the day of resurrection. Until the day of resurrection. And from the means that this is established is from the rulings and the legislation and the law that is prescribed. But from the aspect of that is many times there are issues that will be mentioned directly. That it's halal, that it's haram, that it's good, that it's bad, that it's beneficial, that it's harmful. And other times there are issues that will be mentioned included in general principles. So the religion of Islam, the legislation of Allah Azza wa Jal has declared a ruling. Halal, haram, whether it's wajib or whether it's haram or whether it's mubah or whether it's mandub or whether it's makruh and the likes like this in every aspect of the human life, either by a direct text in the Quran or in the Sunnah, or either by the general principles that are encompassing from all aspects, or either by the general principles that are encompassing from all aspects. From it, this affair here. From the example of that, this affair here. Kullu muskirin khamrun. وَكُلُّ مُسْكِرٍ haram. Everything that intoxicates is considered khamr. So we translate khamr to be wine. Yani wine, alcohol. Khamr normally is going to be wine. Yani wine, alcohol. Alcohol is going to be, this is the normal translation. But what is intended here? Yani this is a name for anything that intoxicates. Kullu muskir. Kullu muskir khamr. Every intoxicant is khamr. And every intoxicant is haram. The Prophet ﷺ continued in this narration, فَمَنْ شَرِبَ الْخَمْرِ فِي الدُّنْيَا فَمَاتَ وَهُوَ مُدْمِنُهَا لَمْ يَتُوبْ لَمْ يَشْرَبْهَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. And whoever, so the Prophet ﷺ, he said, every intoxicant is khamr, and every intoxicant is haram. And whoever drinks khamr in this life, and he died while he's drinking that, and he died while he's addicted and continuing to drink alcohol, and he did not repent from that, then he will not drink alcohol in the hereafter. He will not drink alcohol, and he will not drink the khamr in the hereafter. The khamr in the hereafter, it does not intoxicate, and it's not impermissible. Rather, it's from the delights of Jannah. So the one who drinks it in this life, then he'll be prohibited from that in the hereafter. In the hereafter. It's been collected by Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah from the hadith of Abi Juwayriyah. Abil Juwayriyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Sa'altu Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma an al-Badhiq. I asked Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma about al-Badhiq. Al-Badhiq was a new type of drink. A new type of drink, yani that was not known in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it was made from a different source that was not known in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it was an intoxicant. It was called al-Badhiq. So he said, I asked Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma about al-Badhiq, yani about this particular type of drink. And Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, he says, Sabaqa Muhammadun al-Badhiq. Sabaqa Muhammadun al-Badhiq. Muhammad has preceded al-Badhiq. And this new drink that's been introduced that you're asking about, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has preceded that. And meaning this is something that was not known in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This particular drink was not known in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma is asked about it, he's asked about the ruling of this new drink because it's not mentioned. And in those narrations and the likes like this, it's something new that was not mentioned in that time. It's made from a different source, so on and so forth, but it's still from those affairs that intoxicate. The Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he already knew the ruling. Sabaqa Muhammadun al-Badhiq. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he has preceded this drink. He has preceded this drink. فَمَا أَسْكَرَ فَهُوَ حَرَامٌ. So anything that intoxicates, then it is considered haram. Anything that intoxicates it is considered haram. And he mentioned that the sharab that is good is the one that is halal and tayyib, the one that is permissible and the one that is wholesome. And anything that's after that, that's not wholesome and good, meaning anything that intoxicates, is haram and khabith, is filthy and impermissible. So based upon this, we see that any substance, whether it's liquid, whether it's a liquid or not, in whatever form it may be, if it intoxicates, it's haram. If it intoxicates, it's haram. We understand this. If it's alcohol and it's a liquid, it's haram. If it's a non-liquid, whether it's in solid form or in liquid form, then it's haram and not allowed. Any intoxicant, anything that removes the intelligence. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Al-khamr ma khamara al-aql." Al-khamr ma khamara al-aql. The khamr is anything that intoxicates the mind. So somebody should not think that khamr, the alcohol, is the only thing that's prohibited. Along with the prohibition of khamr is every other intoxicant likewise. Every other intoxicant likewise, whether it's in a liquid form or whether it's in a solid form. So marijuana is haram, cocaine is haram, heroin is haram. These pills and the likes, morphine and all of these other narcotics, they're haram and not allowed. They're haram and not allowed. All of these other narcotics that people are taking, they're getting high with, and the likes like this, these are all haram and not allowed. They're all haram and not allowed. Rather, from the worst of the affairs, the mukhaddarat and the likes, speed and ice, amphetamines, all of these affairs are haram and not allowed. All of this is haram and not allowed, in the same ruling as the khamr. Al-khamr ma khamara al-aql. The khamr is anything that covers the mind, intoxicates the mind, and meaning narcotics, meaning alcohol and narcotics and the likes like this. This is all understood from this text. So this is something that should be known. A person who's smoking weed, for example, or his person who's doing drugs, he's taking pills, he's taking Valium, and so on and so forth. They have Valium and they have a number of other pills likewise that they take, and they cause a person to forget who they are. If they take enough of them, they'll forget who they are, or they'll forget where they're at, and the likes like this. And if a person were to pray like this, his prayer will not be accepted. If a person were to get so high on some of these drugs, he does not know what he's saying, then his prayer is not accepted from him. And there's also threats with regards to this. Likewise, the one who drinks alcohol, his prayer is not accepted from him for 40 days. His prayer will not be accepted for him for 40 days. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have to pray. No, he still has to pray, but his prayer will not be accepted. If he drank alcohol and he's under the threat of his prayer not being accepted for 40 days, and then he didn't pray on top of that, the sin is even more severe and more worse. And now he bears the sin of drinking alcohol or taking drugs likewise, that which is similar to that, and he bears the sin likewise of leaving the salat. So he will not say this is an excuse for him to leave the salat because it's not accepted. No, the salat is still obligatory upon him. The salat is still obligatory upon him. If he left the prayer, then he will fall under the threat of those previous narrations that we discussed in the introduction of this particular work. So the issue is serious. What it means by the one who drinks alcohol, his prayer will not be accepted for 40 days, that means that he will have no reward for that. But the obligation remains upon him. He has to pray in the proper time and the proper manner. But as for the reward, then he will have no reward for that. Likewise, it could be understood as well, just to see the gravity of this affair. Imagine if we have in the scales the reward a Muslim he will have for praying 5 times a day for 40 days. How great of a reward will the believer have? The one who prayed their prayer properly, sincerely for the sake of Allah, 5 times a day for 40 days. This is a great reward. And all of that reward is wiped out and taken away. All of that reward is wiped out and taken away by drinking alcohol or by getting high. So this is showing you the gravity of this affair. That great reward, that great virtue, that great benefit can all be wiped out by taking a drink of alcohol. By smoking a joint, by popping a pill, and the likes, like by getting high, and the likes like this. Waliyadhu billah. So this is something that is serious. So related to the issue of a sakran, likewise the one who's smoking weed. And we mention these affairs because our brothers are smoking weed. And this is something that we see especially in these lands. Even some of them, they have no shame. And they'll come to the prayer just after smoking weed. And you smell it on them in the prayer. And you'll be harmed in the salat. You'll be harmed in the salat by the person next to you or in the rank. Sometimes maybe he's 5, 6, 7 people away from you, but you know that he's there because it stinks. It smells bad. It's very loud. It's a loud smell. Some of them, they come in Jumu'ah likewise. They come in Jumu'ah and Salatul Jumu'ah. Before they come to Jumu'ah, they're smoking weed. Waliyadu billah. This is something that we see. So if they get so high that at the time of their prayer, they don't know what they're saying, their mind is lost and they're gone in their high land and their wonderland and the likes like this, the prayer is not accepted. The prayer is not accepted. The prayer is not accepted. They have to pray again whenever they come down, whenever they come back to sanity. As for if one of them were to get high, he were to smoke weed, or he were to take pills, or even to drink alcohol and the likes like this, but he did not come to the extent that he does not know what he's saying, and he's still in the state of sanity, then his prayer will be accepted along with the fact that he's sinning. Along with the fact that he's sinning. So somebody, for example, he smoked weed, and he got high, but he's functionable. He didn't completely lose his sanity. He knows what he's saying. He knows what he's doing. Then the prayer will be still incumbent upon him at the proper time, and he will have to pray it along with the fact that he's sinning. Along with the fact that he's sinning. So all of these issues here, are mentioned in the likes of this particular issue, losing the mind. Losing the mind. Ibn al-Wardi, he mentioned in his Lamiyya, وَحْجُرُ الْخَمْرَةِ إِن كُنْتَ فَتَى كَيْفَ يَسْعَ فِي الْجُنُونِ مَنْ عَقَلْ. If you are a young man, then you must avoid and turn away from alcohol. Turn away from alcohol entirely. How could somebody who has sanity hasten to become insane? And how could somebody who has the blessing of a sound mind hasten to go crazy? Hasten to go crazy. And this is what happens. People, they do drugs and they get high, or they drink and the likes like this, and they remove their own mind, and they remove their own sanity. If a person has ever seen one who is belligerent drunk, waliyadu billah, and he's literally in a state of insanity. They will have nothing to say about that person except he's crazy. The man is crazy. They'll say, no, he's drunk. And meaning that he's crazy. He literally lost his mind. And he'll wake up and he does not know what he said, or he will not know what he did, or he will not know where he's at, and the likes like this. And many of them, they wake up to a very harsh reality of having committed great and major crimes of that which they performed whenever they were intoxicated. Waliyadu billah. And likewise today, the drugs that we're facing are even more severe. These amphetamines and the likes like this, a person, they'll smoke or snort or eat or shoot up, and they'll become high for not just a day. They'll stay high for days. They'll stay high for days. The methamphetamines and the ice and the likes like this that they're doing in these days, they'll stay high for days. For days, literally, and they'll be awake for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and the likes like this. And it's very disgusting and it's very sad. And these things, they destroy a person's life. They destroy a person's life, and they destroy a person's his family and his household, and likewise they destroy the society. They destroy the society. So no doubt these affairs, they are haram and they're not allowed. They're haram and they're not allowed. Likewise, from the issue of the sanity, a person, maybe he'll lose his mind, is the person who is taking medication, and he not to get high, he's taking medication. Maybe he has to do a surgery, for example. So we have like what they call a binge. The binge is a type of medication where they'll put a person under. They'll put a person under, and the doctors will give him medication until he goes unconscious. Because of the medication. So this one, no doubt this happened at his consent, and basically at his own hand. So the prayers that he missed in that state, he has to make them up. If a person, he was going to go through a surgery and they put him under, and he was some medication, and that lasted until the time of a prayer or two went out, whenever he gains his consciousness, he will have to make up those prayers. He would have to make up those prayers. Or likewise, some people that have extreme illness and pains and the likes like this, and maybe they, from time to time, they have to take particular medication that will cause them to go in and out of consciousness, and some very strong medication because of some severe illnesses and the likes like this. While they're in that state, likewise they cannot pray. But if there's something that they're taking themselves, then whenever they regain their consciousness, they have to pray. So there's a general principle here with regards to the sanity. And if a person, he lost his sanity unwillingly, then he doesn't have to make it up. But if he did it intentionally, whether it's any haram or halal, he did it at his own hands, then he has to make those up. So the one who used drugs, he has to make those up. The one who takes the medication and it's permissible for him, he has to make those up. And the one who did it at his own hands, it's incumbent upon him to make up those days that he missed. As for the one who went unconscious because of a sickness, or because he was struck hard, he was struck in his head or the likes like this, and he went unconscious or for whatever reason, then he will not have to make it up, and Allah knows best. We go back to the issue of the na'im, the one who is sleeping. Then likewise, while he's sleeping, he's excused, like the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in this narration, rufi'a al-qalamu an thalatha, rufi'a al-qalamu an thalatha, that the pen has been lifted from 3, and from them an-na'im hatta yastayqi, the one who's sleeping until he wakes up. But with regards to the one who's sleeping until he wakes up, meaning he's not held accountable for that which happens to him while he's sleeping. He's not held accountable, meaning there's no sin upon him. Meaning there's no sin upon him for that which happens while he's sleeping. For example, if he's sleeping and his hand did something and broke something, some property of somebody, he's not sinning. He's not sinning for that. But if he broke something that belonged to somebody else, he would have to recompense them for that. So what is intended here? The pen of accountability. If he said something, he's sleeping, and in his sleep he said a statement of disbelief, he's not held accountable for that. It's not written against him. So this is what is intended here. So if a person, he fell asleep and he slept entirely from the time of a prayer into the next, or he went to sleep and he slept until the time of the prayer is gone, whenever he wakes up, he has to make it up. Whenever he wakes up, he has to make it up. So there's no doubt about this issue. Man nasiya salatin aw nama anha fakafaratuha an yusalliyaha idha dhakaraha. This is in Sahih Muslim from the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, that whoever forgot his prayer or he slept on the prayer, then the only expiation he has for that is to pray it whenever he remembers. So whenever he wakes up, he has to pray. But the issue with regards to the sin is in general, if he slept on the prayer, meaning unintentionally. As for somebody who slept on the prayer intentionally, he intentionally slept on the prayer. For example, he knows that the Fajr comes and goes. The Fajr comes and goes out at 6 o'clock. For example, he knows at 6 o'clock Fajr goes out. Shuruq begins, and he sets his alarm for 7 o'clock because he has to go to work at 7:30. He sets his alarm for 7 o'clock because he has to go to work at 7:30. So he's going to get up at 7 and the likes like this and pray, or the light and rush and go to work. This person right here, the sleeping is not sleep here is not an excuse for him. He's sinning, waliyadhu billah, and he's intending to sleep on the prayer. This will not be an excuse for him. Sleeping on the prayer now will not be an excuse for him. Rather, he's held accountable for that. Rather, now because he has intended to not wake up in time, this is a major sin, and this is a major sin. This is a foul and lowly way. Waliyadhu billah. Somebody, for example, he's very tired. He said, "Don't wake me up. I'm very tired, and I'm very sleepy. Don't wake me up. Just let me wake up whenever I want to." Likewise, this person, he'll be held accountable. Or a person, he knows for example, he's going to stay up all night long until 1 or 2 hours before Fajr, and then go to sleep. And he knows that he's heavy-headed and the likes like this. He stood up on his own, and he wasting his time. Even the people of knowledge mentioned somebody who stayed up all night long seeking knowledge, or stayed up all night long in the night prayer, and then he fell asleep at the end of the night and slept on the Fajr. He's blameworthy. Now this person has been deceived. Seeking knowledge is in general, it's not an obligation. Or even if it was obligatory knowledge, it doesn't take precedence over the obligatory prayer. And likewise, the night prayer is not an obligation. So the person that performed the likes of these non-obligatory actions, or these actions that are of lesser, the actions that are virtue, but the virtue is lesser, and caused him to miss out on the obligation of Fajr, now he has been deceived. Waliyadhu billah. So therefore, this is not allowed. The only time that the sleeping would be an excuse for him is if he slept on the prayer on accident, and not intentionally. So the people of knowledge, they mentioned with regards to this issue here, it's an obligation to take the means to wake up. Somebody can't go to sleep at night and then not wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, well, I slept and sleeping is an excuse." If he didn't take the means, he has to take the means. He has to set an alarm, for example. He has to notify his wife, or she has to notify her husband, or the mother, or the father, or the brother, or the sister, or the companion, or the friend, and the likes like this. Even if somebody lives alone, maybe he needs to notify another brother, call me, or he has to set alarms, so on and so forth. Maybe he has to set more than one alarm according to his situation, but he has to take the means to get up. he has to take the means to get up. So if a person took the means to get up and then he didn't wake up in time, at this time he will not be held accountable, and he will not be held accountable. But in any circumstance, whenever he wakes up, he has to pray the prayer. Whenever he wakes up, he has to pray the prayer. Even if a person woke up at the time that it's not allowed to pray, and he didn't pray, and for example, he woke up and at sunrise, he will not wait. He will not delay it. He will pray it immediately. فَلْيُصَلِّيهَا إِذَا ذَكَرَهَا لَا كَفَارَةَ لَهَا إِلَّا ذَلِكَ. That he must pray it whenever he remembers it. There's no expiation for that except for this. So it's not allowed to do what some people do. They'll delay it until the next prayer. For example, somebody who missed the Fajr, then he will wait until the next Fajr and pray it with the next Fajr. So whenever Fajr comes the next day, he'll pray for the Fajr of that day and then he'll make it up. Or the one who missed Dhuhr, then he will wait until the next day to pray that Dhuhr, to make up that Dhuhr at the Dhuhr of the next day. This is not correct. This is not allowed. Rather, he must pray it immediately. It's an obligation to make it up immediately. And the narration is very clear. It's very clear. مَنْ نَسِيَ صَلَاةً أَوْ نَامَ عَنْهَا فَلْيُصَلِّهَا إِذَا ذَكَرَهَا. Let him pray it as soon as he remembers. Let him pray it as soon as he remembers. لَا كَفَارَةَ لَهَا إِلَّا ذَلِكَ. There's no expiation for this salat except for that. So he will not delay it. He will not delay it. So these are some of the issues related to the second condition of the aql. After this, the author, he says الشرط الثالث التمييز وضده الصغر وحده 7 سنين ثم يؤمر بالصلاة لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم مروا أبناءكم بالصلاة ل7 واضربوهم عليها ل10 وفرقوا بينهم في المضاجع. The third condition the author he mentioned rahimahullah ta'ala is at-tamyiz. He said at-tamyiz means distinguishment, and having the ability to distinguish and to understand and to know good from bad. And in general, this is what it means. At-tamyiz is whenever is a stage in life that the human being goes through. It's in the stage of a child before reaching puberty. So a child, he will be a baby, and then he will, before reaching the age of puberty, he will come to the age of tamyiz. Yani he's not at the age of puberty, but just before that, he's at the age where he's able to understand, he's able to speak and to respond, he's able to answer questions, he's able to learn, he's able to know what he's saying, he's able to know good from bad, he's able to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong, he knows what is truth, he knows what is lying, and the likes like this. But still, he's not at the age of puberty. This is called the age of tamyiz. So in general, this age differs from child to child. Some children, they reach this age before others. The people of knowledge, they mentioned generally it's at the age of 7. Generally, it's at the age of 7. Sometimes maybe a child, he will be 6, or even sometimes they'll be 5, and they have reached the age of tamyiz, and he's able to comprehend, he's able to talk, he's able to go through a conversation with his guardian, he's able to know right and wrong, he's able to take orders and the likes like this. And even at that young age, although he has not reached the age of puberty, it could be at the age of 5, at the age of 6, at the age of 7, even after that. Yani, so it's really according to the child specifically. But the people of knowledge have mentioned in general at the age of 7. But with regards to the condition of salat, then there's no doubt about it that it's the age of 7. Because with regards to the salat specifically, there's the narration that the author has mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, and it's mentioned here the age of 7 specifically. So the opposite of a tamyiz, the author, he says, وَضِدُّهُ الصِّغَرُ. As-sighar meaning childhood, meaning him being a baby. And he's a child. He's a child before the age of tamyiz. So a person, he will be saghir, and then after that, يكون صبيا. So the sabi is 2 types. صبي غير مميز وصبي مميز. The sabi, the child that is not at the age of tamyiz, and the child who is at the age of tamyiz. Both of them are before the age of puberty. One of them is in between the two. In between the two. This is what we're talking about now, at tamyiz. Yani as-sabi al-mumayyiz, the one who's able to distinguish. So he says, وَحَدُّهُ 7 سِنِينَ. And he specifically here with regards to the salah and the limit set for this tamyiz is 7 years old. Is 7 years old. At this time, and then at this time, he'll be ordered with the salah. ثُمَّ يُؤْمَرُ بِالصَّلَاةِ. At the age of 7, he'll be ordered with salah. لِقَوْلِهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. Based upon the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, مُرُوا أَبْنَاءَكُمْ بِالصَّلَاةِ ل7. Order your children to pray at the age of 7. Order your children to pray at the age of 7. وَاضْرِبُوهُمْ عَلَيْهَا لِعَشْرٍ. And beat them because of the prayer, and if they leave the prayer or do not perform it or refuse to establish it, at the age of 10. وَفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَهُمْ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. And separate them in the beds. And meaning at this age likewise. At this age likewise. So this narration has been narrated by Abdullah ibn Amr radiyallahu anhuma, collected by Abu Dawood and Al-Imam Ahmad rahimahumullah. And it has a number of wordings. All of them are very similar. مُرُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَهُمْ أَبْنَاءُ سَبْعِ سِنِينَ وَاضْرِبُوهُمْ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ أَبْنَاءُ عَشْرٍ وَفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَهُم فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. That you should order your children. And what is intended here, the wording that is mentioned, yani أبناءكم, yani your sons. And the other wording, أولادكم. So what is intended is your children. Yani whether they're male or female, the ruling is the same. Whenever the child, whether he's male or female, he reaches the age of 7, at this time, it's an obligation for the parent to order the child to pray. It's an obligation for the parent to order the child to pray. So this child here is at the age of a tamyiz. He's not at the age of puberty. So therefore, a tamyiz here is conditioned for the correctness of the prayer and not a condition for the obligation of the prayer. Al-bulugh shartun liwujub as-salah. Wat-tamyizu shartun lisihhat as-salah. Al-bulugh, reaching the age of puberty, is a condition for the obligation of salah. As for tamyiz, this is a condition for the correctness of salah. Meaning that a child who did not reach the age of tamyiz, the salah is not correct from him. The salah will not be considered correct. The child who did not reach the age of tamyiz, as-sabi ghayrul mumayyiz, the child who is not at the age of tamyiz, then the prayer is not correct from him. And because he does not have the ability to intend, because of his aql, it's not mature enough to where he is able to understand and comprehend and to have an intention. He's not able to make wudu and have the intention for making wudu. He's not able to intend to make the salah and the likes like this. His mind has not matured to the level where he's able to do this. So therefore he's not able to pray, and his prayer will not be accepted. So we see from here the great mistake that some of the believers do, bringing their children who are under the age of tamyiz and standing them in the salah, standing them in the rank, knowing they do not have wudu and the likes, or even if they made wudu with them and the likes like this, is still not considered because their mind is not able to intend, to have an intention to perform the actions of worship. And if they did, it will not be accepted from them. There's only one action of worship that is correct and considered accepted, and that the child will have a reward for if they perform it, and that is Al-Hajj. We have just seen that in our previous classes, the Hajj, and this is because of a specific narration with regards to that. Nam wa lak al-ajr. Ali had Hajj ya Rasulullah, the woman who raised up the child and by his arm, meaning a little baby, and said, does this child have Hajj? And he said, yes, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, wa laki al-ajr, and you have a reward for that. So that's specific with regards to the Hajj. Likewise, with regards to the zakat is also obligatory, and the wealth of the majnoon and the wealth of the sabi likewise. But this is from another aspect. The one who has the wealth, if the wealth is there and the period goes over, then there must be zakat on it, whether he has intelligence or whether he's at the age of puberty or not. So this is a bit different here. But in general, all of the actions of worship, in order for them to be accepted, the child has to at least be at the age of a tamyiz. The child has to at least be at the age of a tamyiz. So it's not allowed to stand the child in the salah. It's not allowed to stand the child that's lesser than the age of tamyiz in the salah, and the one who's under 7 years old. It's not allowed to stand him in the salah. He's breaking the rank. He's breaking the lines, and he's making a gap in the ranks and the likes like this. He's causing problems. He's causing problems, and this is really a problem. Even we have witnessed sometimes that maybe one of them will bring his child, and then whenever he is asked to not put the child in the rank, he'll leave the masjid. He'll get mad and leave the masjid. So he's a problem by bringing his child, and then even more of a problem for himself by turning his back after the adhan has been made and the believers are standing in their ranks, and then he leaves the masjid because he's mad because he's not allowed to put his child in the rank with the believers whenever he's not allowed to do that. And this is something that is a problem. That is a problem. Not to mention the problems that they cause whenever they're brought into the masjid, especially whenever the parents do not care for them in the proper manner that is required. Especially whenever the parents do not care for them in the proper manner that is required. So again, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Muru awladakum bis-salati wa hum abna'u sab'i sinin." Order your children with salah whenever they are at the age of 7 years old. The people of knowledge, they differed with regards to what is intended here. Is it whenever they reach the age of 7 or whenever they complete the age of 7? And Allah knows best. In the Arabic language, a person, he will not be considered 7 years old until he completed 7 years old. Until the 7 years are completed, meaning he starts the 8th year. Whenever the child begins the 8th year, at this time he's considered 7 years old. You understand that? At this time he's considered 7 years old. So at this time he'll be ordered with salat. Likewise with regards to the age of 10. Whenever he reaches 11, at this time one will discipline the child for leaving the prayer. At this time he'll be considered 10 years old. At this time he'll be considered 10 years old. So again, there's an order here. There's an order here for the salat. The order is an obligation. But the obligation is not upon the child. The child is not obligatory for him to pray. But as for the parent, it's obligatory for the parent to order the child to pray. So this narration here is a fundamental principle with regards to educating and disciplining and cultivating the children. With regards to tarbiyah al-Islamiyah sahiha. That is an obligation upon the parents, that whenever the child reaches this age, the age of 7, at this time they must start ordering them to pray. They must start ordering them to pray. It's not an obligation for the child to pray, but it is an obligation for the parent or the guardian to order the child to pray. So the parent will not order the child in the manner that he will order someone to perform something that's obligatory. Rather, the command here is amru tahbib. Amru tahbib wa targhib. It's the type of command that will be in order to encourage and to make the prayer beloved. So it's an obligation for the parent to order the child to pray. But the way that the parent orders the child is in order to encourage the child, not to force the child, not to burden the child, not to make it heavy on the child, but to order the child and encourage the child, and to make the prayer seem beautiful and beneficial and beloved to the child. And to say to the child, Salli, pray. Did you pray today? Pray, Salli. Salli salah. Allah loves those who pray. If you pray if you want to go to Jannah, you have to pray. The people of paradise, all of them pray, and Allah, He loves those who pray. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray. All of the companions, radiallahu anhum, they would pray, and mentioning the benefits of the prayer and the beauty of the prayer, and the likes like this, and encouraging the child to pray. And at this time, 7, 8, and 9, and the likes like this, if he prays, alhamdulillah, and if he doesn't pray, likewise, alhamdulillah. It's not incumbent. So the parent will start ordering the child to pray at this time, and in this manner like this, not forcing the child to pray. Rather, he will order him to pray, meaning he will encourage him to pray. He will encourage him to pray. The child will hear from his guardian 5 times a day, starting at this age, pray salat, pray fajr. Even if they don't even get all the way out of bed, you just wake them up, or you let them hear that. They hear it from you. Or at the dhuhr time, maybe they're running around and playing. So you don't stop him, you don't make him come pray. You just tell him to pray. Salli, it's dhuhr time. Hal salayta, it's dhuhr time. Did you pray? Have you prayed yet? Come on, we're about to pray. Come, let's go pray. Like this, we're going to go pray now. Do you make wudu? Do you have wudu? And start just suggesting this and ordering him this in this manner, without forcing it upon him. If he goes and prays, or if he comes and prays, alhamdulillah. If he doesn't pray, you don't force him. You don't force him, because it's not an obligation upon them to pray, but it's an obligation upon the parent to discipline him and to raise him and encourage him to pray in this manner. So this is also from the beauty about Islam and from its perfection, because a child at the age of 7, no doubt, is not able to bear this. And the age of 8 and the age of 9, they're not able in reality to bear until they get to the age of 10 completely. And the likes, they're not able to really bear this burden of stopping what they're doing and praying and all throughout the day, so on and so forth. But the fact that they hear it all throughout the day for 3 years, 7, 8, 9, and then till they reach the age of 10, that they're hearing their parents, they're seeing their parents, the prayer is established, the father's going to the masjid, the mother's praying in the home, the siblings are praying in the home, the sunnah is being prayed in the home, the prayer is something that's established in the life of the family, the house is established upon the salat and established upon the tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. The kid is being raised in this manner, so he sees it. So now, whenever he gets older, it will be easy for him to accept that. It's a great mistake that some of the parents they make, rather a detrimental mistake that some of the parents they make. They do not apply this narration. I know people that have come to me and asking for advice about their siblings, and they're saying that their sister doesn't pray. Their sister refused to pray. And I start asking about, what happened, and come to find out the whole time they never even told her to pray. And they never applied this narration. Whenever she was 7, they're never making her pray. They never made her wear the hijab. They never, until now all of a sudden she's become old, and now the figure is starting to show, and now it's clear that she's at the age of puberty. And now they're like, oh, you have to pray. And so suddenly, all of a sudden, now they want to tell the little girl to pray, and she doesn't want to pray. She doesn't want to pray because she was not cultivated properly. So in reality, it's their fault. It's the father's fault first and foremost, and then the mother, and likewise the other siblings, any of the brothers and sisters. It's incumbent for the family to work together in raising the children. The mothers and fathers, this is the father specifically, and likewise the mother, the responsibility is on their shoulders. But likewise the brothers and sisters, especially those who are older, it's incumbent for all of them to work together in raising the family and helping the little brothers and the little sisters learn to pray, ordering them with the prayer, inviting them to the prayer, encouraging them to pray, so on and so forth. So the point is that it's an obligation. It's an obligation for the guardian to encourage, and to order the child an order of encouragement, and to make the prayer seem good and beloved at the age of 7. All the way until they reach the age of 10. At this time, they'll be disciplined. If the child now refuses to play, then he can be beaten. And again, it will be in a manner that is not in belittlement, in a manner that is not harsh or rude, and likewise that will not bruise or harm the child. Rather, it's a strike that will discipline the child. Letting the child know that the parent is not happy. So it can be even a light strike, but from that, it's known that the parent is not pleased. The parent is not happy. What is intended by فَضْرِبُوهُمْ بِعَشْرٍ, and to beat them doesn't mean to beat them and break their arms, or to pull them and to yank them, or to beat them and to get it off one's chest and the likes of that. That's not what is intended. Or to belittle them, or you're a loser, you never pray, you sleep every day on Fajr, you never wait. No, you don't never say the likes of these words. Rather, whenever you try to encourage them, you use the best words and the best speech, the manner that you would like your parents to call you to the prayer if you are a little boy or a little girl sleeping in the morning at Fajr. So this is also another mistake that some of the people make. They'll be rude and harsh, and you go pray, and they'll scream and they'll yell and the likes like this. But you don't do that likewise, because this is also going to make the prayer not be beloved to the child. This is going to make the prayer be hard and heavy for the child. Every time they hear about the prayer, they're getting yelled at. Every time the word salat is brought up, their mother's yelling and their voice is high. And it's a call of belittlement, or the father is harsh and the father is rude. Every time salah. But the way that is being mentioned and the way that is being brought up is in a way of belittlement, or in a way of harshness, or in a way of rudeness. So even this is something that is going to plant the seed of hatred in the heart for the salat of the child. Not because the child hates the salat, but because of the way that's being introduced. Every time he hears about the salat, he's being put down, he's being disrespected, he's being belittled, he's being yelled at, he's being dealt with harshly or rudely. So this is not proper likewise. This is not proper likewise. Rather, you try to wake them up or to get them to pray in the best manner, in a good way, and with a good voice, and encouraging them, reminding them, and the likes like this. In the same manner, a person he would like to be cultivated if he was in that situation. So this is very, very important. The obligation upon the parents to raise their children upon Islam, to raise their children upon the deen of Allah, to raise their children upon performing the obligations and avoiding and staying away from the prohibitions, even before they reach the age of puberty. Even before they reach the age of puberty, as soon as they reach the age of 7, they'll be ordered with the prayer in this manner, like this, in a gentle manner, in a manner of encouragement, in a good way, until they reach the age of 10. After that, they'll be disciplined if they do not pray. But even then, it will be a discipline that is done in a manner to just display that a person is not happy, not in a manner to belittle them or to harm them, or the likes like this. Likewise, the Prophet ﷺ in this narration, he said, وَفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَهُمْ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, and separate them at the age of 10 as well in the beds. And he meaning at this age, whenever they start becoming more mature, that they should be separated in the beds. They should not be allowed to sleep in the same bed and under the same cover, because maybe their hands will become, they'll move around, or the likes like this, or maybe when they're sleeping, something will become uncovered and one of their eyes will fall on something that's not proper. They will see something that's not proper, and at this time, whenever the mind becomes more mature, now shaitan, he starts to whisper more often, and the desires, they start to become more apparent in the heart of a person. And the older a person gets, the more mature they get, the more they're affected by desires. And they're more along with that, they're affected by the whispers of the devil, waliyadu billah. So in order to avoid these affairs, and in order for protecting the children from falling into something that could be considered blameworthy, or even falling into something that is haram, waliyadu billah, they'll be separated at this time. They'll be separated at this time, regardless of whether they're two boys or two girls, or boys and girls. At this time, they'll be separated in the beds. They have to each have their own bed, their own cover, and the likes like this at the age of 10. At the age of 10. After this, the author, he says, الشرط الرابع رفع الحدث وهو الوضوء المعروف. The fourth condition is removing the hadith, and it is the الوضوء المعروف, the well-known ablution. The well-known ablution. Inshallah, we take this condition in the class to come. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد